London, hello, my video for March 6th, and I've just been to a meeting and it was good. What sort of meeting? Well, a meeting of the Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, never can, never will. It's full of unique, authentic people who speak for themselves where they will. But I do share about AA and the steps and traditions which keep it going and keep us going as individuals, simply because it's sometimes possible that people cannot get to a meeting, and it's most important, I find, for my recovery. What I see is what I get in meetings. I see the reality of fellowship in action. So in some ways these videos may be redundant or simply a backup when there is no meeting available, and it can be very difficult sometimes to get to a meeting for a variety of reasons, either because we're immobilized physically, which happens to me sometimes, or we are immobilized emotionally, or we might have been out for a slip or a relapse and are thinking about what can I do to get back to a meeting, and maybe just keeping in touch. This is what these videos are about, and I was asked to do them. So, that out of the way, what is AA? And I will share the AA preamble, which is shared at every meeting, which says what it is and what it isn't. And this is not an official AA video. This is just me, Don, sharing my experience, strength and hope of what works for me in recovery. And of course, if I didn't mention AA or talk about it, what would be the point? I'd be pretending that I've done it all myself. And actually, I've done what I can myself, but with a lot of help through fellowship, and then through professionals, and then of course by family, friends and community. So it's a joint effort, I find, interdependent in this life, not codependent. So the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. And the only way you'll get a true feeling for it is to go to a meeting of AA and see what you see. What you see is what you get. We call it attraction rather than promotion. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, nor any internet website. Unless it says AA, well yes, there is an official one. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that was copyrighted, or as it says here, 1947. 55 years ago. So copyrights run out unless there's some new cards. Yes. So, how does AA help me daily? Well, simply, it's given me a fellowship of friends and people I can relate to, people I come to understand and trust with wisdom. It's as simple as that. When I don't know the answer, which is very often, I can ask for help. And it's a bit of a strange week this week. It was the week that, I can't remember whether my sponsor died or he was buried. Either way, I think March 10th was the day when he was buried, so that's not very far off. That's one of my sponsors. Two of mine have died from natural causes and not from drink, and two of them have heart problems, past sponsors, so I try to keep it fairly even and not too taxing on them or me. So we all have our problems in recovery. The main problem is to stay sober, and it's not a problem actually, it's the solution to everything. It means that life can work. And the meeting today started with acceptance, acceptance being the key to how to live life. And this thing of acceptance, I feel, is probably easily understood from this book, the big one, AA, where it's got a passage on acceptance. And I like to read it just slightly before and slightly after that part, which people know best. So from page 416 in the AA Big Book, I had already given up narcotics, most of the pills, some of the alcohol when I first came to AA. By early July I had tapered off alcohol completely, and I got off all pills in the ensuing few months. When the compulsion to drink left, it was relatively easy to stay off alcohol. But for some time it was difficult to keep from taking a pill when I had an appropriate symptom, such as a cough, pain, anxiety, insomnia, a muscle spasm, or an upset stomach. It has gotten progressively easier. Today I feel I've used up my right to chemical peace of mind. Beware of that. This is doctor speaking, I think. So naturally, most things go away in time, so we don't need a pill. And of course, in recovery, any form of mood modification is difficult because we want to be as sober as possible. Some of us, however, have clinical conditions, which mean we do take our medication, so we're on a level playing field. It helped me a great deal to become convinced that alcoholism was a disease, not a moral issue, that I had been drinking as a result of a compulsion, even though I had not been aware of the compulsion at the time. In other words, it sneaks up on us. And that sobriety was not a matter of willpower. And what I know about willpower is that it will fail eventually. Self-will will fail. And it becomes self-obsession, determined beyond reasonable action, which is drinking. The people of AA had something that looked much better than what I had, but I was afraid to let go of what I had in order to try something new. There was a certain sense of security in the familiar, so if we can self-will ourselves into a particular form of outlook, we do it. And sometimes that's very bad for us, or it can be very good if it's a balanced outlook. At last, acceptance proved to be the key to my drinking problem. After I'd been around AA for 7 months, tapering off alcohol and pills, not finding the program working very well, I was finally able to say, "Okay, God, it is true that I, of all people, strange as it may seem, and even though I didn't give my permission, really am an alcoholic of sorts. And it was all right with me. Now, what am I going to do about it?" When I stopped living in the problem and began living in the answer, the problem went away. From that moment on, I have not had a single compulsion to drink. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept my life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world, as what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players." He forgot to mention that I was chief critic. I was always able to see the flaw in every person, every situation, and I was always glad to point it out, because I knew you wanted perfection just as I did. AA and acceptance have taught me that there is a bit of good in the worst of us, and a bit of bad in the best of us, that we are all children of God, and we each have a right to be here. When I complain about me or about you, I'm complaining about God's handiwork, and I'm saying that I know better than God. For years I was sure the worst thing that could happen to a nice guy like me would be that I would turn out to be an alcoholic. Today I find it's the best thing that has ever happened to me. This proves that I don't know what's good for me, and if I don't know what's good for me, then I don't know what's good for or bad for you or for anyone. So I'm better off if I don't give advice, don't figure I know what's best, and just accept life on life's terms, as it is today, especially my own life, as it actually is. Before AA, I judged myself by my intentions, while the world was judging me by my actions. And, when I was out there, as we say, drinking, and for a long time I was able to pinpoint everything that could be right or wrong about a particular situation, which made me very good at doing certain things in business life. It didn't do anything for me, and all I did was work myself into a single-minded career person with no other facets, if you like. As each part of my life closed down, I poured more energy into being as good as I could be at something else. So one-directional. And this is the problem often. If we only had one direction and nothing around it, one smokestack of what we see ourselves, if someone hits the base of it and we fall down, we're just a pile of bricks and no mortar. So the glue of life for me has turned out to be acceptance of life on life's terms and getting a broader perspective of how I might be involved in it. In other words, see where I fit and where I can be useful. And what that leads to is an understanding of how to love myself and what I do, not judging other people and what they do, but just being aware of my own conduct around what my intentions are and my way of looking at it. If I can cherish people rather than treat them superficially or with indifference, if I learn how to love, be loved back, and be useful, then I'm on the right track. That's what I get from meetings. And then life happens, and we fit in and do things. Some things about doing are about community, family, friends. Some things are about work and earning a living, if we can. Some things are about faith and how we deal with our faith of living and what we're doing. And for others, maybe religion as well. Well, that might be the mainstay, religion followed by everything else. But these days I put sober first, so I may have faith in what may happen next, courage and confidence to be a part of life. And if I'm sober, I can keep on learning how to love, be loved back, and useful in whatever life context it could be. So not driven by one direction, not supporting it or blotting out the rest of me with a substance like alcohol. Now that's the gift of AA, and although I never speak for it, because it is full of unique, authentic people, the fellowship helps me get perspective on my life on a daily basis, just one day at a time. My behaviour, equally addictive, work, relationships, material things, collecting, you name it. I was a very good consumer and always trying to fix myself to feel better about me and my life. And the problem with fixing with external things always is that they're external to us. We don't have that internal barometer of well-being. Something didn't happen when I was young. I didn't learn how to live life that well. So if I conformed, fitted in, was compatible in the sense of trying to be whatever I thought I ought to be, rather than actually finding out who I want to be or need to be on a daily basis, I felt I would fit in. And what made it possible to take away the fear of not being good enough, feeling less than, simply was alcohol. From the very first drink, it changed the way I felt. So if we find something which changes the way we feel and helps us overcome fear, it's like taking some medicine in a funny sort of way. But the problem is we keep on chasing those feelings of being okay, the joyfulness or the sadness, whatever it was probably at the extremes of behaviour. We needed something to fix. And these days I've found it's easier to face life than fix it. So what helps me? Well, friends, family, community kept me alive long enough to have a moment of clarity to understand if my life was ever going to work, I needed to find a way out of the trap I was in. And that trap for me is addiction. Addiction can be something anybody can get, but some of us maybe are predisposed and have these fears of not fitting in. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whyever or however. Whyever? No such word. However we found ourselves in addiction, it doesn't matter. It's then what we can do about it on a daily basis to keep in recovery. So once an addict, always an addict, in my view, and I know that's not necessarily held by every medical person. I've had medical opinion which says you're recovered, so you can do what you like. Another medical opinion which says no, you're not recovered, you're in recovery, so it's best not to go back to old behaviour, don't you think? And I tend to agree with them. And I found a fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, which agrees that it's better not to try and control something which got out of control. and became an addiction. So I'm with those who feel it's a one-day program of recovery, and that's the Fellowship of AA. So in this one-day program, what helps me, people in fellowship, the actual tools of the fellowship, 12 steps of action to keep me changing my attitude and behaviour on a daily basis to the good of living rather than the fixing of living. So I'm an absolute fan of AA. It saved my life, and the people in it every single day offer friendship, fellowship, and it helps me. So I share about AA here in my videos of recovery, and a little bit about my story. And for me it's been a good morning. My mother, my auntie and my sister came to visit, to see my foot as much as anything, and see me too. My auntie's down from Yorkshire, so it was good to see her, and she's promising to come back again. All good. I'm sober today and able to enjoy their company and just be a part of. That's wonderful. Sounds like the local cop shop have a few things to do this morning. Anyway, what is AA? Well, I share the AA preamble or statement of intent, which is on this little card here, and I read it because to recite it means that I can be forgetful about the meaning. Recitation is not necessarily the answer here, although repetitive recitation is probably called prayer, and prayer does work, and that's part of what today is about too. So, what is AA? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So, a desire to stop drinking, as I was sharing with my family just earlier, it's a desire to stop drinking, no more, no less. That's the only qualification for going to AA. And I'm suspicious that some people go to AA because it's a very social place to be, where people don't drink and we learn how to interact without having to fix ourselves. But that's okay too. So on this little card it also has the 12 steps of the program and the 12 traditions. And the 12 steps, well, March is the third month, and step 3 is where I concentrate using this book here, Daily Reflections, to illustrate what step 3 can be for me and how it reads. And it reads like this. It says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. To the care of God as we understood him. And when it said we understood him, I always thought that meant everybody had the same understanding, and we don't. 6.5 billion people on the planet, 6.5 billion understandings of what God may be, because we don't all think exactly the same, and that's the gift. So, you know, a higher power helping me sort out my life, and for me that's truth, love and the wisdom of others. So I have plenty of higher power in my life, and I think we are all in the same boat, no matter whether we're in fellowship or not. We get wisdom where wisdom is. So in this book, Daily Reflections, it talks about the idea of faith, and this is again a personal thing. Faith in living, faith in being able to face and cope with what is happening to us. So when it says here, the idea of faith, do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean. The idea of faith is a very large chunk to swallow when fear, doubt and anger abound in and around me. Sometimes just the idea of doing something different, something I'm not accustomed to doing, can eventually become an act of faith if I do it regularly and do it without debating whether it's the right thing to do. When a bad day comes along and everything is going wrong, a meeting or a talk with another drunk often distracts me just enough to persuade me that everything is not quite as impossible, as overwhelming as I had thought. In the same way, going to a meeting or talking to a fellow alcoholic are acts of faith. I believe I'm arresting my disease, that is, staying in recovery. These are ways I slowly move toward faith in a higher power. And for me, you know, the idea that there's a power greater than me, was knocked on the head, if you like, when my father had a nervous breakdown through drinking and overwork. And guess what happened to me? I had a nervous breakdown from overwork and then drinking. So, however we get there, to this thing of faith. Faith in nature, providence, life happening around us. If we can feel included in some way. And the fellowship was my ticket back into living in society. It was helping me understand how to relate to other people when I had lost the ability to relate to anything. So faith, courage and confidence are often my shortcomings. When fear, brave facing and ego comes into the picture. So if I'm fearful, putting on a brave face and ego, my faith is low, my confidence is low, and my esteem is down the pan. So I have to be careful. And what gives me faith, courage and confidence? Fellowship, family, community, being a part of, learning how to love others and be loved back, and do something useful on a daily basis. So my usefulness this morning, I made tea for my family. I've got more family in another place, and my brother and his family. I hope to see them soon as well. So all good, being connected again through faith, courage and self-esteem. The serenity prayer I share at the end of these videos is to God, a higher power, good conscience, you name it, it's your choice. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is for me, just for today.
AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And yes, good evening, and it's good to be home. And it's good to have been out for a cup of tea with my sponsor this evening after the meeting down at Radnor Walk. And my sponsor was doing the chair, and it was all about tradition 2, which is, I'll just share that with you. 2, for our group purpose there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. And I know when I first came into AA I thought it was full of leaders and people in the hierarchy, and I couldn't understand why nobody seemed to be telling anybody else what to do. And the simple answer is that nobody tells anybody in AA what to do. We work together to make the group work for us. And it's not like any other organisation. And when it says the leaders are trusted servants, that's exactly what they are. They are there to give guidance and to offer their wisdom of the years. And I'm lucky because my sponsor has 31 years of sobriety. But as he says, it's not the length of sobriety you've got, it's how far away you are from the next drink. So a bit like me, he is a very active participant in the programme of AA. And I go every day if I can. Sometimes I go twice. And today I went twice. So I went to Radnor Walk tonight, and then earlier in the day I went to St Jude's and heard the Step 1 chair, which is all about being powerless over alcohol, and life is unmanageable when we drink. So part of the early traditions and part of the early steps has been my sort of thinking and understanding place, if you like, in terms of absorbing stuff from my fellows in AA. And it's always good to hear there are newcomers in the room, and as my sponsor said, newcomers are the lifeblood of AA. They keep coming back as we do. And as a fellowship which is growing all the time, as people realise they are overwhelmed with drink, it's a good thing. And I feel okay today. I've had to do some other chores around filling in documents for the Department of Work and Pensions, which I fill them in honestly. At the same time, I don't like doing it because I have to admit exactly what my medical situation is and where I am with diabetes, depression, neuropathy, retinopathy, any other opathy I happen to have, and it can be disconcerting. So I have to focus on the negative rather than on the positive, which is I can get out to a meeting, I can be in good company, I can listen to fellows who have wisdom, not only about what it's like not to drink, but what it's like to live life as it is, in the real world of now. And as we learn in the programme, the fellowship is only as strong for one day as we are. Then we come to learn and understand that if we participate in AA, we then are more likely to be able to participate in life as well. And for me, it's about emotional, spiritual and physical well-being. And whilst I do rely on medical support and psychiatric support for my depression and diabetes, I rely very much on the programme of AA to keep me going one day at a time, so I may deal with the other two things and all the other complications that arise. So I'm lucky, I'm very lucky indeed to still be here, to have a roof over my head, and to be able to go out and just enjoy a cup of tea in the King's Road in a nice restaurant, and then come home and maybe make a video. Anyway, enough about me today for now. The Daily Reflections, written by AA people for AA people. And it says, March 7, the key is willingness. Once we have placed the key of willingness in the lock and have the door ever so slightly open, we find that we can always open it some more. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 35. It goes on to say, the willingness to give up my pride and self-will to a power greater than myself has proved to be the only ingredient absolutely necessary to solve all of my problems today. Even the smallest amount of willingness, if sincere, is sufficient to allow God to enter and take control over my problem, pain or obsession. My level of comfort is in direct relation to the degree of willingness I possess at any given moment to give up my self-will and allow God's will to be manifested in my life. With the key of willingness, my worries and fears are powerfully transformed into security. And as I keep saying, for me, God is truth, or God is love, as my sponsor also says. And, you know, it's not me being self-obsessed, it's about me fitting in with what the world is about. Being the right size person, neither bigger nor smaller than anybody else. I'm just getting on with the day as amenably as I can, and with good heart, and being willing to help and be there for other people, and to share my experience, strength and hope as requested, or as the moment offers. So that's a little bit more. As Bill sees it, for tomorrow, I'm using page number 94 in All Our Affairs. The chief purpose of AA is sobriety. We all realise that without sobriety we have nothing. However, it is possible to expand this simple aim into a great deal of nonsense, so far as the individual member is concerned. Sometimes we hear him say, in effect, sobriety is my sole responsibility. After all, I'm a pretty fine chap, except for my drinking. Give me sobriety and I've got it made. As long as our friend clings to this comfortable alibi, he will make so little progress with his real-life problems and responsibilities that he stands in a fair way to get drunk again. This is why AA's 12-step urges that we practice these principles in all our affairs. We are not living just to be sober, we are living to learn, to serve and to love. And it's about this bridge to modern living that we're looking for. And we do it on a daily basis. We can't bank, as some people do say, I've put this amount of sobriety in the bank and then I'm going to be okay, when I can't get to meetings for the next few weeks because I'm either going on holiday or a business trip or whatever. What sensible people know is there is nothing in the bank when it comes to emotional, spiritual and physical well-being. It's in the moment of now, this ever-present moment of now, which is the connection to truth. And denials are so easy to make, and it's so easy to get off kilter, off beam very, very quickly if we don't follow our sobriety path. So, what am I saying? Yes, we can be overdrawn at the bank of sobriety very easily if we don't keep coming to meetings. And moving on to 24 hours a day, the little black book written by an AA person, published by Hazelden, but not recognised by AA as a fellowship. It says for March 7, there are two important things we have to do if we want to get sober and stay sober. First, having admitted that we will helpless before alcohol, we have to turn our alcoholic problem over to God and trust Him to take care of it for us. Well, for me, God is truth. So this means asking Him every morning for the strength to stay sober that day and thanking Him every night. It means really leaving the problem in God's hands and not reaching out and taking the problem back to ourselves. Second, having given our drink problem to God, we must cooperate with Him by doing something about it ourselves. Am I doing these two things? Well, I do hand it over to the truth, the absolute truth of the day, rather than my truth, which could be quite elaborate and conniving and manipulative, so that I want to get my own way and do things as I choose. But what I find is, if I actually realise my right size, the possibilities, where I fit and where I don't fit, and that I am the equal of making good choices just gently in the moment, then life goes a lot more smoothly. And it's not me influencing others to my point of view particularly. It's understanding what my point of view is and the choices I may make on a daily basis. So overall it's been an okay day. I have not enjoyed doing these forms because it drags me back into past and present medical situations which I have no control over. Still, at least I'm still alive for now.